Billy Napier, embarrassed at home again. Yeah, he's got to go.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest, craziest, most unpredictable sport at times on planet Earth. This is a hot seat talk special. Every coach that will be mentioned on today's show, there are 5 spanning different conferences and levels of football, are on the hot seat or should just kind of be shown the door. This episode brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So, last year, I recall, because I was watching college football, as I've done every fall for my life, Billy Napier's team had some good recruiting classes and some promise, not hype, but promise going into last year. But the schedule was brutal. Oh boy. And in 2 of the first 3 games that he played last year, got embarrassed by Miami out of the ACC and by Texas A&M, who was a good team last year, but not great, and was operating with a first-year head coach. Now, after those games, I remember coming on this very program, this same channel that you're listening to or watching this show right now. Thank you for doing that, by the way. And I said, Billy Napier has to go. It's been long enough. The results are not trending upward. There could be other candidates available. I think Lane Kiffin would be a really interesting hire at the University of Florida. Sure, he underachieves sometimes against Kentucky for whatever reason at Ole Miss, but that's at Ole Miss, not at Florida. But Florida wrote it out, and they made a quarterback change. And oh, here it is. He was just starting the wrong guy. Or the 5-star wasn't ready. DJ Lagway wasn't ready yet. So we stick with Billy Napier. Look at the end of the season against a bunch of teams that weren't as tough at that time as they looked going into the year. We'll see how this year's schedule plays out. And they wrote it out. And now, here we are again. Groundhog's Day. And Billy Napier has been embarrassed, but in like a much worse way, on his home field. You just let South Florida walk into the swamp and walk out with a win? You gotta be kidding me, dude. I have faded Billy Napier all offseason based on the fact that I've watched him at what should be a top 5 job in college football struggle to keep them in the top 25 of college football. The results on the field do not match the talent that he has recruited. He has underachieved considerably. And by the way, why doesn't DJ Lagway look sharper? This is a guy who some talked about as a potential Heisman candidate this year. And when you watch him play, boy, he should be really good. Why against South Florida was this a struggle? I don't put it entirely on Billy Napier. I put most of it there because if you're coaching the kid correctly, if you have a system that works correctly, it shouldn't look as difficult as it was. DJ Lagway against South Florida, 23 of 33 for 222 yards, a touchdown, and a pick? 6 carries for 9 yards? Like, what? Why was that so difficult? This is South Florida. You're losing to a directional school on your home field. I mean, I don't know what else you need to see. Here's my worry, though. Here's my concern on behalf of Florida fans. The schedule is incredibly brutal. What does that mean? Or at least it looks brutal. It means that Florida, whose potential is much greater than what they showed on Saturday night, will have opportunities. And if they find a way to squeak out a win against a Texas, or if they somehow go into Death Valley and beat LSU this week, I don't know how they will, but let's say that were to happen, or Miami on the road, which those are their next 2 games, at LSU, at Miami. Good luck. Good luck. At Texas A&M, they play Georgia, they play Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Florida State. It's an insanely brutal schedule. Didn't used to matter because you're the University of Florida, but now we have to consider it of, oh, wait, if you can lose to South Florida, who can you beat on there? Well, I don't think Florida played their best football on Saturday, but they also showed you what they're capable of playing, so they're not going to win that many, but if they win a few, if they hold serve against Kentucky, against Mississippi State, who picked up a big win, talking about that more on tomorrow's show, if they win a couple of those games, I worry, because of what happened last year, that Scott Strickland, the AD, might look at Billy Napier and say, oh, now he's figured it out. Oh, see, just needed a little more time. Enough. This is Florida. We're having conversations about Kalen DeBoer's buyout at Alabama. You know why? It's Alabama. This is Florida. That was an embarrassment of football again at home. It's not the first time or the only time he's been embarrassed. It's just the third time I can think of off the top of my head that he's been embarrassed at home. And I saw a video going around of fans chanting "Fire Napier." Yeah. How do you push back on that? What is your defense? What do you point to at this point and say, here's why I'm keeping Billy Napier? I don't know what it is. I really don't know. Recruiting, I guess. And he has shown time and again an ability to minimize that recruiting talent. Why is the game with South Florida even close? Who's a legit Group of 5 playoff contender, by the way. Shout out to Alex Golish and the Bulls. Because if you didn't know the name going into last week's contest, Byram Brown, you probably know now. Dude's a gamer. He just outplayed DJ Lagway on DJ's home field. DJ Lagway, who some people picked to win the Heisman Trophy this year. Yeah, Byram Brown was better than him for 4 quarters on Saturday night. Straight up no kicker. No context, no nothing. He was a better football player. He's operating with a worse team, walks out with a win. Shows absolute stones. Marching the team down the field with less than 2 minutes to go, with however many tens of thousands of Florida fans yelling at it, and gets them into perfect position for their kicker to go win the game. Man, nobody felt better last week than South Florida, except maybe Mississippi State. It was a weird week for the SEC. The SEC actually had a very good weekend, and then Florida lost to South Florida at home. Oh man, that's bad. So here we are, Groundhog's Day. I'm coming on the show saying, yeah, Billy Napier, a change needs to be made. I don't care what the schedule is. I don't care. There's no excuse that is valid especially when your quarterback is healthy, who's a former 5-star recruit, to go and lose to South Florida. There's no excuse for that. There shouldn't be. It should not be tolerated. And for Florida's sake, I hope it isn't. But we'll see. We'll see. South Florida, by the way, I'm going to put them and Tulane as my 2 favorite Group of 5 playoff teams. More on that later this week on the show. But man, how do you not be impressed with South Florida? A win against Boise State in which they blow them out, preseason number 25 team. Then you go to the preseason number 13 team. And by the way, some of us pointed out that Florida was overrated as a top 15 team. Admittedly, I would have ranked them in the top 25. Would not have had them inside the top 20. Would not have had them inside the top 15. Absolutely ridiculous. And here we are. Again, shout out to South Florida, though. Gosh, the Bulls were a fun watch. Just really, really fun to watch. And if they wind up in the playoff this year, that'd be an awesome story. Maybe, Florida, your head coach is the guy that just beat your current head coach. Maybe. He's got some ties in the state. Dude clearly knows how to win. Before he was at South Florida, he was in the SEC at Tennessee. I'm just saying. Throw it out there. But if Billy Napier survives this season, the only reason that I would tolerate is if he finds a way to go, I'll give you 9-3. Yeah, if he wins anything less than 9-3 with that schedule, which would probably, I don't know if it'd get him in the playoff. Maybe. There'd be a lot of really good wins on there. And if South Florida goes to the playoff, yeah, it might. So if Billy Napier doesn't go 9-3, which he's not going to do, then he should not be the head coach. He should not be the head coach of the University of Florida. I don't think he should be the head coach now, but it's 2 games into the season, so you see if he can fix it, of course. This time. Yeah, all right. Good luck. Good luck with that, Florida. South Florida, hey, you have a lot of football fans in the country. supporting the Bulls right now. That's pretty awesome. So Billy Napier's not the only hot seat coach out there. Did you see what happened in Las Vegas? Did you see what happened in Ames? Those two things could result in Big Ten jobs coming to a coach availability near you. First, this episode brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items for the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, which some of you certainly do, Supply House has next day delivery. You talk about a game changer, next day delivery is as game changing as it gets. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free. Use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. And you get great service with our friends at Game Time. That's where you want to go if you want to get college football tickets. I love that college football is back, and we're talking about actual games all week long here on the show. The tailgates, the rivalries, the upsets, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. Nothing like it. But getting the tickets can be more of a battle than the actual game itself. It shouldn't be. Game Time is here to smooth out that process. Game Time's the app that gives the advantage back to fans, where it belongs. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Among their many great features, that is my personal favorite, because I can't stand thinking I'm paying one price and then, they're going to tack on X amount more dollars. It drives me nutty. And Game Time allows you to get away from that. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, UCLA fans, let's have an honest-to-goodness conversation about DeShaun Foster. This isn't working. It is not working. He is 5-9, and are they going to fire him mid-season? No. How many wins do you think the Bruins are getting this year? Legitimate question. I am not here to troll. I am not here to gloat about the fact that I am not likely to have to don a Nico jersey at the end of the year because UCLA getting to 7 or more wins. This is a game that coming into the year, I thought they would win. I thought they'd lose big to Utah. All right, I didn't change my opinion. Do you realize that UNLV struggled on the same field you just lost to them with Idaho State, an FCS team that doesn't have a winning season since 2018 and is 0-3 on the year? Do you realize it? That's the team that just beat UCLA. Now, there was a valiant comeback effort in there. It was a valiant effort. It was 23-3 at the half. At the half. I did not expect UCLA to be great this year. But you know one of the reasons I was intrigued to see Nico go there and be the UCLA quarterback? Nico does have immense potential. I don't know how UCLA plans on maximizing that or if they're capable of even getting 50% out of him. Nico has made an all-time bad calculation, which I said at the time that he left Tennessee, and that continues to look to be true because UCLA plays New Mexico at home this week. Boy, I hope they win that football game. UCLA has a huge stadium. We know they can't sell it out. It's not going to get any easier when you're losing games to UNLV, where you're trying to stage a big-time comeback and Nico throws a pick to end the game, and all right, you know what? That's the way it goes, a late-game situation sometimes. Why was a group of 5 team that is all brand new, by the way, outright win vibe for UNLV, outright lose vibe for UCLA here, 100%. Dan Mullen has his team playing better and better, and you know what? In the Group of 5 playoff conversation, with this win over UCLA, UNLV is ahead of Boise State right now. They're absolutely ahead of them because they don't have a loss and they've got a Power 4 win. Boise State can say neither of those things. So, great outcome here for Dan Mullen and the Rebels. But if this continues to progress, if you go from 5-7 last year to a 3 or 4 win team this year, are you giving DeShaun Foster a third season? Honest question. Maybe when you have a talent like Nico at quarterback, maybe you want to give it one more year, see if a second year in the system with Tino Sinceri and make some offseason moves. Maybe you want to do all of that. But my criticism of the UCLA football program for quite a while now has been, I don't see you as acting like a serious football program. And that annoys me because the potential of UCLA is very real. And longtime fans are fully aware of that. There is no reason in the modern era, and their basketball program is proof positive of this, that they can't be competitive. Even if they're the number 2 team in their own city. Los Angeles is a hotbed. It's one of the top 3 or 4 metropolitan hotbeds for high school football talent in all of college football. What is DeShaun Foster able to sell to those potential recruits right now? What is he even able to sell to the locker room? You can't go on the road and beat a rebuilding UNLV team. You're in year 2. He's in year 1. You've got a way more talented quarterback than Anthony Calandria for UNLV. Why was that game ugly? I never liked the DeShaun Foster hire. It felt like, he's cheap and he's available. He seemed like the sort of guy who should have been named the interim head coach for a year. You give him a chance, and then you go, okay, this is not... Fresno State's a good example. They had, I believe it was Tim Skipper as their interim head coach, and he was doing, okay, not great. They went out and got Matt Entz, a real head coach with a track record of winning going back to North Dakota State. Guess what? They just walked into Reser and embarrassed Oregon State. Now, Oregon State mostly did the embarrassing themselves. I'm going to talk about that later in the show. But I see nothing with DeShaun Foster that is going right. I don't know what you would even look at and say, well, this is going in the right direction. Like, Nico's numbers were fine in the game, but it didn't actually matter because they trailed 23-3 against UNLV. Like, it's bad. It's bad. So their next 2 games are incredibly winnable. And then the gauntlet begins for UCLA. And I legitimately don't know how many they're going to win. But I'm curious. UCLA fans, you tell me. What does a successful season look like? And what would have to happen for you to say after year 2, all right, we're done with DeShaun Foster. Let's go get an actual head coach. I don't know. So that's one Big Ten job that could come available. Let me tell you about another one that I'm keeping an eye on here. Even though this was the outcome I expected. I picked Iowa State to win the football game. I thought they'd win the Cyhawk battle. I thought it would be close. It was. They did. 16-13 final score. That's the Cyhawk for you. Iowa State gets it done in Ames. Really good win for Matt Campbell here because it's kind of getting that cloud to stop hovering over you about beating Iowa at home. All right, you got it done. Here's why I wonder about Kirk Ferentz. Number 1, he's not a spring chicken. He's been there a very long time. He is old. Number 2, he is clearly not capable of bringing Iowa football into the 21st century of being competitive. Because it doesn't seem to matter what quarterback he tries to get there, and they haven't been able to go out and get any type of legitimate quarterback. They go get Mark Gronowski, and through 2 games, Trent Condon of Locked On Hawkeyes, through his own admission, yep, we were sold a bill of goods, this is not it. Do you know his passing yardage totals, Mark Gronowski, in Iowa's first 2 games? They played Albany and Iowa State. He threw for 83 yards against Iowa State. What if I told you that is almost double what he threw for against Albany? It's not that Kirk Ferentz is going to stop being able to win games. Defense and run game can take you to a lot of really, really solid, but never elite places. Their schedule, frankly, isn't as hard as some of the other ones in the Big Ten. UMass, Rutgers, Indiana at home, at Wisconsin, Penn State, Minnesota, Oregon. I don't know how they're doing in that stretch, though. At USC, Michigan State, at Nebraska. Second half gets quite a bit tougher. But what about Kirk Ferentz and his track record makes you think, yeah, this is the guy. He's still going to do. He's still got it. Just got to find the right guy. No, we've been trying this over and over again. He's had an incredible career. I hope he gets the record for the most career wins as a head coach because he has been sustained success. He has not been sustained excellence compared to what I think I would be capable of. And if your first response to moving on from Kirk Ferentz, Iowa fans, is, well, who are you going to go get? You're just afraid of change. This is not going to get better. It's not. This is what it can be. And you know what? If you're happy every now and then being a 9-win program, but mostly being a 6 to 7 or maybe 8-win team and never doing anything more than that, you know what? Fine. Fine. Then you get what you deserve. But at some point, you've got to recognize this is a problem. He cannot do it. He's as well established as any coach in college football. Can you ever see him building Iowa to compete with Ohio State or Oregon or Michigan when they get back to full strength, or Penn State? Who's he going to knock off when those teams are at their peak, who show no signs of slowing down and are on an upward trajectory? Who's he beating? I don't see it. I don't see it. Those are two Big Ten jobs that by the end of the season could absolutely come open. Just keep an eye. Two more jobs that could absolutely come open with a wild number of things in common that don't necessarily have to do with football. First, this episode brought to you by The Game Cap. Quick question for all of you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. What hat would you be wearing? For me, it would be The Game. They have phenomenal caps over there. And guess what? You would look good back then. You'll look good now rocking a hat from The Game. There aren't just hats. They're the same vintage styles fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price they did back then. When you use the code LOCKEDON, all one word, you will get your vintage hat for $16.99. Head to thegamecap.com. That's thegamecaps.com with an S in there. Thegamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and use the code LOCKEDON for an exclusive discount, because legends wear the game. I will take this one on the chin a little bit. Michigan fans were hoping that I would be, quote, eating crow in a variety of different ways that it can be served. And yeah, I didn't, because I predicted that score right on the money. Oklahoma wins 24-13. Where I was incorrect with a preseason assessment was that Oregon State would take a step forward. Trent Bray is 2 games away, with those matchups being at Texas Tech and at Oregon, who are top 3 power-rated teams in my rankings coming into the year in their respective leagues. Texas Tech number 1. When Baron Morton's fully healthy, I had Oregon number 3. And Oregon looks, oh, by the way, like a world beater at the moment. We'll see if that lasts. But I thought Trent Bray would take a step forward. Why? He was going to get more consistency at the quarterback position. He had a year to entrench himself as the head coach. I don't know that Trent Bray is a head coach. His team certainly didn't look like they were being coached by someone that should be the leader of that sort of program. And Oregon State has to ask themselves very serious questions here. Because their first game after Texas Tech and Oregon, unless they pull a stunner of an upset there, after losing 2 games in pretty ugly fashion at home, I don't know how they suddenly would get it right on the road. Crazier things have happened in college football. FCS Appalachian State once upon a time beat Michigan. Oh, speaking of Appalachian State, that's who Oregon State plays for Game 5. Oregon State can legitimately be 0-5. This year. They're looking like 0-4 is a lot. I picked them this week because they were at home, because they'd had a game to get all the kinks out with a new quarterback, and then they played one of the ugliest games imaginable on Saturday at home. On their first game, at least, Cal went out there and Jaren Kiave Sangopolotele, or JKS, went out there and made some phenomenal throws. And no, Oregon State didn't look good, but you at least felt like you were getting beat. The problem with the Fresno State loss is not just that Matt Entz is in his first year there, with the Bulldogs. You're in year 2. You've got the more expensive and more talented quarterback, and yet you go out and find a way to lose the game, doing a number of different things wrong. It's that Oregon State was beating themselves. And then F-bombs are getting dropped all over the place. You know why? Because Trent Bray knows how bad it is. Everyone knows how bad it is, because if you just have the ability to watch them play football, they don't look cohesive. They do not look well coached. They do not do the little things right. They are not good situationally. End of the half, for instance, Malik Murphy throws an atrocious interception. I mean, atrocious. They were in field goal range, not a gimme field goal. It was 3rd down and long. He's trying to get more yards. He rolls out to the right, throws it down into coverage and gets intercepted. Oregon State doesn't get a chance to snap the ball over the holder's head once again with their field goal unit. But the fact that that ball was even put up in the air, I'm sorry, you have to figure out how to kick a field goal at some point. Hand the football. How often are you converting? I think it was like a 3rd and 20 or something. You're not converting that often. Hand the ball off, get a couple yards, make it easier on your field goal unit, and you got to give them the belief at some point that they can go out there and get it right. And if they can't, well, then you definitely know what you need to work on. You already knew that anyway, but there's no way that ball should have gone up in the air. And then there was just the encapsulation of what has gone wrong, which is they can't get out of their own way. And so the punter dropping what was a perfectly fine snap, kicking it from the ground, and that getting returned for a touchdown before the half, oh boy. Nothing looks good. Nothing looks buttoned up. Nothing looks like they have a head coach who's capable of steering this in the right direction. I'm willing to give you some grace. Do you realize Trent Bray started 4-1 as Oregon State's head coach? 4-1, with the only loss being to then number 1 ranked Oregon. That was the only loss. Or Oregon was about to be number 1 ranked. Future Big Ten champs. Since then, Trent Bray, it's not good. It's not good. He's 1-8. He's 1-8 since that time. And no, Malik Murphy can't do it on his own. I don't watch and think Malik Murphy's always the problem, or even usually the problem. It's everything else around him. The defense should be better. They do not look phenomenally well coached. They can't get off the field situationally. They get pushed around way too much. Oregon State goes into the New World Pac-12 next year. Are you wanting to go in with all this negative momentum? Because your expectation as a program should be to compete in that league for a conference championship. Trent Bray doesn't look like the guy to do it. He's got until the midway point of this season before maybe a decision doesn't get made and get acted upon, but a decision should be made. Because if he comes out 0-5, he'd be 5-12 as a head coach and 1-11 in his last 12 games. Yikes. Speaking of head coaches at programs whose initials are OSU and colors are orange and black, Mike Gundy was taken to the woodshed over the weekend by Dan Lanning following comments that I don't think Gundy intended to fire up the Oregon roster and coaching staff, but he did because he wasn't as careful, I guess, as he needed to be. I thought his message was to his donors and fans to both prepare them for what was about to happen and also send a message, hey, we need more money or we cannot compete at the level that you expect us to. Now, if that request, essentially, from Mike Gundy is not reciprocated, or if it's not fulfilled, well, then guess what? He might decide, I can't win here, I'm out. And now a Big 12 job is open. Or maybe Mike Gundy just keeps on losing. I think Oklahoma State, losing Haas Haney at quarterback is tough. Zane Flores is not yet ready to play. At least he wasn't ready for Oregon. We'll see about the rest of the schedule for Oklahoma State. It certainly gets a lot easier than that because Oregon is playing like a world beater at the moment. But if you keep having losses like that, that look that bad, that are that bad, backup quarterback or not, you've got to show a higher floor of capability as a coach, or a change might be made. He's got a lot of equity in there, but he just did the Mike Norvell. Bunch of new players, all new coaches. Look at what Mike Norvell did. went and beat Alabama. I didn't expect Oklahoma State to beat Oregon. I thought they would lose. I thought Oregon would cover. But guess what? There are examples, too many of them out there, that show that even if you're at a program that shouldn't be able to make changes that quickly, you should be able to have it look better than that. 69-3? Yikes. Yikes. It was a horrible day for the Big 12 on Saturday. I'll talk about that more tomorrow. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.